guys that, like, look, the mandate here is putting team above individuals. And, that was one of the big things that Billy said to me during our get-together this morning, is that, he is going to walk into that locker room and say, look, I don't know what was done in the past, but this is the way it is going to be done now. And it needs to be, if you want to win, it's team above everything, above ice time, above whatever your individual, for lack of a better term, selfish view is as a player. The only way that we're going to be successful is for us as an organization. Again, I'm saying what Billy's going to say. I'm not calling the Wild way, but for us as an organization to come together and put the logo in front of all other potential egotistical things right now that are going to better each other individually.
I have a follow-up question on that. I do want to thank Fixology Repair, fixologyrepair.com. They have a new location in the St. Paul Skyway right by the XL Energy Center, right by the Wild headquarters. I know he actually gets Wild employees walking by and stopping by, and we appreciate that. Fixologyrepair.com. Mall of America, downtown Minneapolis in the Skyway, downtown St. Paul in the Skyway.
Hi, this is John with Fixology Repair. For the better part of a decade, we've been privileged to serve you for all of your jewelry, watch, and smartphone repair needs at the Mall of America. Since Minnesotans largely hate going to the mall, we expanded 2 years ago to reach you in the Minneapolis Skyway. And now this year, we're pleased to announce we have a new location at Wells Fargo Place in the St. Paul Skyway. All 3 shops are equipped to help with your watch and cell phone repair needs on site, while all jewelry, computer, and game consoles will be completed at the Mall of America store. Please bring us your repair challenges, and don't forget to mention the Talk North podcast for a 10% discount on all of our services.
Do you think the personality of this team can be rectified or salvaged?
Say that again, the personality?
Whatever issues exist in that locker room, in terms of whatever you want to call it, culture, relationships, is whatever is there, whatever has been impeding this team, is it fixable?
I think it is. I mean, I don't think, look, there are good guys in that locker room, even the ones that might need to be mended back together. And a couple of those have already started, privately, I think. I could tell you this. I was talking to Bruce Boudreau yesterday, and he told me that because I missed the press conference. I was out of town. And what he told me was that he has not seen such smiles on the players' faces in a long, long time. That and this, again, is, I'm not trying to put words into Bruce's mouth that this is painting a bad light on Paul. What he is saying is that last year was a trying season. Things became very negative once things started to derail in the second half of the season. And then there you have the stress over the organization all summer. And then you have Paul Fenton let go. And he's like, it's just like there's this weight, this palpable weight has been lifted off everybody. And he said that you look at the players and it's just like they were so excited yesterday being at that press conference and seeing what was going on. And he thinks that, it's the type of thing that could actually, now who knows? I mean, this is just his feeling. Who knows if this turns out to be true? But it's the type of thing that could be a pick-me-up coming into the season that can actually provide energy coming into the year that normally would not exist because no team in their right mind ever fires a general manager this late. You never have this type of significant move so late in the offseason, so early in terms of training camp being on the horizon here. And so he's hoping that what he saw yesterday, the smiles on these players, all of a sudden helps this team repair itself and improves them on the ice. So we'll see. I mean, that's just a theory, an instant reaction. But when he was looking at the players yesterday, he completely felt. But these guys want to win. I mean, let's take Parise, for example. I mean, when he talks the way that he does in my stories, his negativity about this team is based on one thing. He wants to win. And so he also knows that as a team, he's got to play well. He's got to make sure that locker room is, there's some cohesion there. There's chemistry. And so I think that all these guys are going to come in for the right reasons and try to win on the ice. And so I do think that this is really is an easy fix, and almost that a lot of players on this team just needed sort of a wake up call to try to improve both their play individually and collectively.
And, I'm not a hockey expert, but I have been covering professional sports since the mid 80s and as a beat writer as late as 1989. And no teams are like all good guys or all bad guys. The key is, do you have the right people in leadership, and do you have people who at least follow enough, and do you have somebody setting a tone that people can fall in line? Because every team has some bad guys on it. You just can't let them take over the room.
Right, exactly. And we see that. I mean, it's like when Charlie Coyle was talking about when he was traded to, you remember Charlie Coyle was traded in a really weird way. He gets a call at like noon, told not to come to the plane, but I can't tell you where you're going because the team that he was traded for, Paul Fenton, couldn't announce that he was going to that team because that team had to make some roster moves and they had a game that night. So Paul was in a really tough spot, but he also can't have, he couldn't have Charlie getting on a plane and going to New York. And so what Charlie said was like, all of a sudden, it's finally announced at night that he is officially going to the Boston Bruins, which everybody knew at that point. And even on a game night, between warm-ups and the game, Patrice Bergeron and Zdeno Chara call him from Vegas to welcome to the team. And so that is a type of leadership that really is impressive. And I just think it's sort of like, again, a wake-up call that here's another Bruins story. And this was not told to me, trust me, by Coyle, but it was told to me by somebody else. And this one I'm going to have to be a little careful with the way I say it because it was told to me in confidence, and it's sort of a hearsay type story. But there was a situation on the ice like 6-7 years ago where Brad Marchand did a really, lowbrow thing on the ice to a player.
Yep.
And after the game, and apparently on the ice, Chara witnessed it. Zdeno Chara witnessed it from the bench, actually. And after the game, when that player from the other team was walking out of his locker room, Zdeno Chara was waiting there and apologized on behalf of the team for Marchand's actions on the ice. I mean, that is a freaking captain right there, right?
No kidding.
And so, like, every team, like, Nico is a great guy. And believe it or not, he's a respected captain in that locker room. But, every team's got different personalities and different ways to lead and things like that. And so those are the type of things that I think that are different in every single room. And so I just think that that this team needs a wake-up call. One story I've told a lot that I just think, again, it comes down to players not thinking, but how the heck is Nico Sturm and Matt Robson not being with their teammates in their first ever road game at the end of the year in Dallas? I mean, they didn't go. They were essentially not invited to dinner by anybody. I mean, that's just a slip through the cracks of guys not thinking. And I think again, Parisi and Koivu weren't on the trip, but those Suter and Stahl were. And again, these guys are great dudes. They're good leaders. Stahl was a captain for a long, long time. It just somehow slips through the cracks when you're not thinking. And that was a weird situation. It was game 82. They didn't make the playoffs. I'm sure a lot of these guys were going out and having fun. We know one guy was arrested. So that was JT. My point is that maybe that should be considered an aberration. But there's an example where I think that Bill Guerin needs to get in the room and be like, gentlemen, okay, let's start working as a total team here and making sure that this stuff, because if it's not that way, you're just not going to win. And the one thing that Bill Guerin did say during the presser yesterday, because I listened from Cabo, was, and I agree with him, is that winning does cure all. Losing is what created a lot of the mess last year. If you remember when they were winning at the beginning of the year, I was writing that it just felt like this locker room was a totally different animal. So, I just think that, I guess to get back to your original question, I think there are good players on this team. There are great guys on this team. There are good leaders on this team. And so if Billy can go in there and just kind of give everybody look, from a 4-time Stanley Cup winner here, from a guy that was the life of the party in the locker room, but knew when I needed to be professional and things like that. Let's all get on the same page here and collectively win, because we know, the reality is, I think even those players know, they look around that locker room, they see a lot of talent, but there's no superstars. There's nobody that's just going to come out and break a game wide open, at least that we know of right now. So the only way that this team's got the ability to have a recipe for success is to sit there and, as a team, work hard for the common goal for each other and go out and try to win. And I think that Billy's going to probably be able to go in there and impress upon that, and then it's going to be up to the players to go out there and make themselves successful. This is a tough schedule to start this season.
All right. Hey, I want to ask you about Mike Madonna. First, I want to thank Tony Hoaglund, Hoaglund, your State Farm agent, works out of Champlin, but I deal with him email, on the app, phone calls, very responsive. I just went on a rant on the Roy Smalley show about all the bad customer service experiences I've had, moving and dealing with my car and everything lately. And that's the cool thing about Tony Hoaglund is he's responsive, and you can deal with him, and you can deal with his people directly.
Hey, Minnesota sports fans. This is your local State Farm agent, Tony Hoaglund. I need you all to ask yourselves this question. If you're in an at-fault car accident and you are sued for $700,000, how much of that $700,000 will my current insurance company pay? If you are unsure or can't answer all $700,000, you need to give us a call. State Farm has been number one in car insurance since World War II and number one in homeowners insurance since 1964. For a no-obligation review of your current policies, call us at 763-421-4900 or check out our website at www.champlininsurance.com.
So how big an influence was Mike Madonna? How big a part of the hockey operations decision-making process do you think he might be going forward?
I think he was very influential. I mean, obviously, he's, when you're talking about vetting a candidate, Mike Madonna knows Billy Guerin immensely well. I mean, not just from playing 4 years together on the Dallas Stars, but being on a bunch of USA hockey teams together, from 3 Olympic Games to 2 World Cups to the World Juniors and things like that. So they're close. I don't know if they're best friends, but they obviously, Mike knows him well enough to know his character and what type of leader he could potentially be and the presence that he can make on this organization. I think it was important that they had a hockey guy in this process. And the other thing is that, I've said it before. I mean, it was funny when Mike Madonna was hired by the Wild went through great pains to make it seem that Mike Madonna would have zero influence on the hockey operations department. And I think a lot of that was out of fear of essentially insulting Paul Fenton, that they were trying to hire us, because at that point, remember, Paul Fenton was well aware that Craig was not happy with a lot of things that are going on. So all of a sudden they hire Mike, and it's like they wanted to just at least portend to Paul, whether it was legitimate or not, that they weren't hiring somebody to almost provide oversight on him, to be a spy, for lack of a better term. And Mike is okay with that, and Mike really does want to help this organization immensely on the business side of the game, but his goal is to get into hockey ops, right? And I mean, that's just an absolute fact. And so I think that part of Mike's hope here is that eventually he is going to be essentially the president of hockey ops for this team. And so if he thinks that that's eventually a place that he can kind of transition into, who else but to have a friend and somebody you immensely respect as the general manager of this team, and then eventually you can kind of move into the situation where you are the guy that could be the liaison between Craig Leopold and Matt Maka and the hockey ops department, and you could almost do a multi-role thing. So, I do think that was intriguing to Mike, is to have somebody that he knows that he could potentially work with down the road here. I don't know if it would happen immediately, but I do think that ultimately Mike would like to transition into that role.
Makes sense. Let's do some Twitter questions. We have some good ones, of course, from this fan base. We always get good questions. Once again, we'll be at Tin Shed in Savage, 7 o'clock on Thursday night. Last few shows, we've had the perfect size crowds. There's room if you want to join us. It's not overcrowded, but it's a big, fun crowd full of regulars and new people, and just a great group of people to be around. Come out 7 o'clock, Tin Shed MN. Brian, who runs Tin Shed, is continuing to do a drawing to give away future Wild tickets, and I think now there's new jam. There might be a little more enthusiasm for that, and good food and drink. So come out there. And I also want to thank, if you don't live near Tin Shed, if you're not going there for a meal, what we really recommend is Bite Squad, bitesquad.com, promo code TALKNORTH to get your first delivery fee waived. Keep using them after that because they're a good company. They're pretty much everywhere now, and they've been great to our company. Bitesquad.com, Bite Squad, the app. And they also have a members deal, $5.99 a month, gets you free delivery any place within 4 miles. So do it. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, home, office elsewhere. From Zach Brown on Twitter,